Many of us spend our whole life in search of purpose, desperately seeking meaningful ways to make a difference in the world with the short amount of time we are given. The Deploying High podcast has been designed to help you analyze what gives you purpose.
Hello there. Gene Saunders, Project Lifesaver International, and you are listening and watching Deploying High. I am very pleased to have this guest on today. He's a good friend. Been with him for some time now. He has a long, distinguished law enforcement career, but even more so in my particular venue, he has been around and with Project Lifesaver for some time. In fact, he has served on our board for a number of years, and even more so as chairman of the board of trustees. So I'd like to introduce you today to Mr. Rick Derus, and Rick is a native of Canada. So, Rick, how are you?
Very well, Gene. Thank you for that introduction.
Well, very well deserved. I probably should say a lot more, but we only have 30 minutes. So I don't want to expound too much. Rick, I've known you for some time. I've known you since, you were OPP, and I met you in Caledon, Canada. Tell us, what did you do or what were you about before you ever got into law enforcement?
Well, before I got into law enforcement, I was your classic university student. I went to University of Windsor and got a human kinetics degree for that. And I also got my teaching degree. And I stayed because at that time I loved playing football. So I played varsity football for the university for 5 years. And really, HK and teaching was the only programs that would let me stay for 5 years at university. So it was a lot of fun during that time. But unfortunately, as we all hit that point, we have to grow up and actually work for a living. And it was at that time that I put my application into the Ontario Provincial Police, which is similar to many state police agencies across the United States. They deploy across the entire province of Ontario, which is quite larger than the state of California, actually. So I put my application into them, and shockingly, even after doing everything, they hired me back in, oh my God, Gene, I'm going to date myself, 1983.
You're not dating yourself as bad as I would, so keep on.
So I enjoyed my career with the Ontario Provincial Police. I had the most fun. We're a provincial agency in charge of doing both small municipalities, larger municipalities, and what I enjoyed most was the policing of our 401 highways, like our 400 series highways, which are very similar to the interstates that you would have throughout the United States. So I enjoyed that. I progressed through the ranks. Very fortunate, never have to move in a deployed agency like the OPP. I managed to stay my entire career in a city called Windsor, which is just outside of Detroit, Michigan. I'd look out my, take a drive down Olette Avenue in Windsor, and I'd head right into downtown Detroit if there wasn't the Detroit River there. So as I worked my way through the ranks, I started as a constable sergeant. Then I became an emergency response team team there for the OPP, which was a great experience, probably on the job for 6 years, traveling the province, doing lots of significant high-risk calls. And then, as most police officers eventually do, they either their work. I settled into a life of administrative work in a police agency as the staff sergeant operations manager for a detachment in the Ontario Provincial Police. And it was at that time that I first got exposed to Project Lifesaver. So that was sort of the precursor to where Project Lifesaver and my policing career intersected.
So how did you learn of Project Lifesaver, Rick? That's a question I've never asked you. How did that come about?
Well, you would know or recall the wonderful lady. She's also a constable in the OPP, Jacqueline Winant Bacon. And her mother was suffering with dementia at the time. And she had heard of this project, Lifesaver program in the United States. And she thought that that would be a great idea to bring into Canada at that time. Canada was strictly at that time a United States only program. So she brought this proposal to me, and I looked it over. I said, in a policing agency, we get lots of community programs that are brought forward, and all of them are really valuable and great initiatives to bring to the community. But when I sat down with her and listened to Project Lifesaver, in my mind, I quickly special here with this program, and that this program has, the ability to provide a benefit to people with Alzheimer's or dementia or anything like that across our entire community, and for that matter, across all of Ontario and Canada. So with her help, and I'm forever grateful, did the groundwork to bring forward Project Lifesaver to essentially our first in Windsor, Essex County. And I recall, Gene, you coming down, training us and meeting with us and helping set up the program, and those memories, say 1995, 1996, or no, 2000. Was it 2000? Holy cow, 2005.
Yeah, it was more like 2000.
Yeah, 2005, 2006.
That's right, Rick.
Memories.
They say the memories are first to go.
Yes. Well, that's why we're involved with this program.
That's right.
What do you call it? So, I still recall the meeting with you the first time, and how impressed I was with the whole organization and the instructors that came down to help set the foundation for Project Lifesaver eventually in all of Canada.
Well, I tell you, I remember it very well. We actually met with you and the other OPP people in Caledon, Caledon, Ontario. I remember it very well. In fact, the other day, I just happened to be looking through some photos that we had that we were trying to decide what to do with, and there was our group photo, and another photo of you, me, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, standing there talking out in the field. So yeah, it's been some really great memories. But then you progressed in the Project Lifesaver program. How did you come about joining the board of directors, or board of trustees, I should say? Well,
it actually was never my intention. I never really even gave much thought to how Project Lifesaver in the United States. And it was, through your contact and through your invitation, I believe I attended one of the conventions.
I remember you did.
Story. Yes. And, we had some long talks, and, I was probably a little bit of a pest because that for all of us who have worked for large policing organizations know how bureaucratic they are and how many lawyers are involved with, introducing any program. So I was probably a bit of a pest to Eugene and the rest of the staff at Project Lifesaver, because I was asking a lot of questions, and I wanted to know how it operated, and I wanted to make sure that if we were going to assign our name as a policing organization to Project Lifesaver, that there was going to be no negative connotations to that. And I think it was through those discussions that you invited me to be part of the board back in October of 2007. And that was my first board meeting, and I was been hooked ever since.
Fortunately for us, you have. In fact, I think it was around 2008, 2009, you stepped into the chairmanship.
Yes, and sort of reluctantly at first. I didn't want to, but the program over the years has evolved significantly. And that phase, in the early part, when I was certainly involved on the board, there was a transition from how Project Lifesaver was being operated. It needed to move into a much more structured, more independent audits, more oversight of how the program was being run, quite simply because it was growing well beyond, I'm sure well beyond what you thought, Gene, Project Lifesaver would ever grow. It was a multi-million-dollar nonprofit agency that gets its money from police agencies and other community support agencies, and we're entrusted with that money to make sure that it's being spent properly. And it was just an evolution during that period of time where I managed to successfully become the chair and help lead us along with some other great board members who were to where we are right now.
Well, I would have to say, and not to blow smoke, but you have been a great leader on the board, and we have had some really great board members. We still do. In fact, I think if you looked at the Board of Trustees of Project Lifesaver, it's probably one of those that has the most longevity of board members of any organization I have ever seen, which I think is a testament to both the organization and to the members of the board and their oversight. As I went along, a lot of what you all brought to me was things that I had not thought of, that I needed to have for the organization, and you and the rest of the board structured us and moved us in the direction that we needed to go. And I am grateful for that, very. Like I said, not to blow a lot of smoke, but what it is it is. That's just the way the things have gone out. Now, you had a very long career in law enforcement. You rose to the rank of inspector in the OPP, which is definitely up the chain. You went from there, you retired from the OPP, and what did you do after that?
So my post-retirement from my first policing agency, I ended up as the deputy chief for the City of Windsor Police Department, which is a large municipal police department in Ontario. We police the population of approximately 230,000 people with 658 sworn and civilian members. So I did that for over 5 years, which was a truly exciting time. And it was through that role to bring Project Lifesaver. Program is still running solid and strong in the city of Windsor, as well as sort of bring a little more exposure to Project Lifesaver across the province, just because I was simply in that role that it allowed municipalities with some credibility. So that took me after that, I did something that a lot of police officers are doing in Canada. When they legalized cannabis, I moved over to producing marijuana products outside my hometown of Windsor. And to say that was a big switch for me, to be working with some young entrepreneurs and who had a vision to make huge money off the cannabis market, to say the least. I was obviously at that time the oldest employee of the organization, and I was dealing with people who had very managerial or administrative experience, but had lots of enthusiasm and lots of drive to make the greenhouse very successful. So I was happy to be part of that at that time and sort of move that initiative forward. But my calling has always been with police departments, and an opening came up to be the administrator for the Windsor Police Association, for the union, for the members that work for the Windsor Police Service. So in August of 2020, I was very fortunate to achieve that position, and I've been serving in that role, representing their issues, bargaining new contracts, dealing with grievances, and generally just trying to improve the working conditions of the Windsor police officers since that time. I love it every day. I still look forward to coming to work.
Well, I don't think they could have gotten a better person for it, in all honesty. So now let's go back a little bit on Project Lifesaver. All has not been as smooth as we would like to have been. And, being transparent, I think, is part of the integrity of the organization. We've never hidden anything. We will tell it like it is, or we'll tell our side of it. Of course, there's always two sides to the story. But there's been some bumps in the road. and you were there for every one of them. You helped lead us through them. So, without mentioning names of the organizations or people that we were dealing with, kind of guide us through a couple of those and what your thoughts were and what you envisioned as to where we needed to go.
Well, I think what people need to understand, right off the bat with Project Lifesaver is that on the surface, many people were, for lack of a better term, jealous of its success. And many people saw a greater vision than what I believe Gene had at the beginning, which was we're a nonprofit agency serving police departments, and we're going to do that in a manner that is transparent, as you said, it's open. However, we're not. This is not ever to be a profit-making enterprise that could make millions of dollars. And I think part of the issue, certainly when I first came there, was that there were people outside of our organization that thought they could take Project Lifesaver and make multitudes of millions of dollars off of Project Lifesaver, which is totally against, really the whole intent of this. And certainly on the board, we recognized that, and we had to take a number of steps, sometimes some very costly steps, to involve getting lawyers involved and lawsuits and things like that, just to protect the original vision of Project Lifesaver. And those times were very difficult because we didn't have the funds that we were fighting against. We're multi-million-dollar corporations that had lawyers on staff, that had the ability to effectively try and bleed us dry financially to take over Project Lifesaver. But it was the vision of the board and certainly of Gene and other staff at Project Lifesaver that we believe so much in this program to remain at a nonprofit basis and continue to operate in a manner that police agencies would support or community safety agencies would support. So those times were very difficult because there were times, and I know we can agree to this, Gene, that the future of Project Lifesaver was in dire jeopardy, and it could have soon been taken over by a for-profit company, and not be in the same structure it is right now, which I believe is the proper structure to have for the program that it delivers to community safety organizations. So those are difficult. We also had other people that thought that that we weren't taking good care of our financial assets. And as with anything, there's always people that think that they can do a better job. And Gene has certainly been the target of that a couple of times. Who, it's a very high profile position, and Gene has earned the support and the trust of our board, as well as the whole locating technology world, in his expertise and his ability not only to understand the technical side of locating technology, but also the administrative side of running a large not-for-profit. So we had a few times where people would try and challenge Gene's leadership throughout that I've been with the board as the chairman. So those things were challenging as well, because it does make you, take a close look at, the state of the organization and where we're going and who is in charge. And it was, I know, difficult for Gene at times, because we would ask those tough questions about what are you doing? Where are we spending this money? What, are you doing things that are moving the program forward and Project Lifesaver International as a whole forward? And every time when we looked at these allegations or issues that were brought forward by external members, we recognized that Gene was doing a great job as our chair, as our chief executive officer for Project Lifesaver, and his credibility has never been an issue as far as when the board's concerned. And really, you just have to look at all the external and even the little things that may not mean a lot to people who are raising an issue, But the things that mean a lot to us as boards are when we go through an audit, and we've gone through several audits, including a very comprehensive federal audit that looked at how we allocated the extensive money that we got from federal grants, and all of them point to strong leadership and a strong moral and ethical foundation for Gene's operation of this program. So those are some of the challenges that we had to deal with. And I guess the last one, certainly one of the biggest challenges that we're still facing today is the evolution of this locating technology, right? Everybody promises a lot. It's better. This is, GPS is going to be the answer to everything. And, we looked at drones. We looked at a number of different combinations, GPS, radio transmitter ones, but it's always a challenge to try and decide on which product is best going to serve our clients. And so far, we've been really solid on providing, certainly a radio-based system that we have complete faith in. And we are obviously open to other systems, but, I've seen probably, Gene, 5 or 6 of them come or go, right? That started out with great promise and were, not enough for Gene and his staff to put the seal of approval on. So those are some of the challenges that we've had to Project Lifesaver. But I do want to say that those challenges, probably since 2018 on, have been far less frequent to the organization, in the sense of they've, people, I think, have recognized that Project Lifesaver is a solid organization, and now they're more in support of us and trying to help get the products and the programming that we need out to our clients there. So it's been, and Gene would know, it's been sort of really, and I hate to say it, I'm going to knock on wood right here, it's been smooth sailing, I believe, for Project Lifesaver, despite small challenges like COVID, that we've had to deal with and things like that.
Rick, I don't think I could have described it any better than you did. We've been through over and around a lot of mountains and obstacles, but it was a learning process, and I will tell anybody, anytime, as I've told the board, listen, I was a cop for 33 years. I never ran a business. And when I started this, I was only thinking of Chesapeake, Virginia. And it's like I keep telling, and I've said this to you several times, that horse got out of the barn and I'm still chasing it, trying to get up, next to it at least. And a lot of things were learning experiences as we went along. But I think, we've taken those lessons and we put them to heart. Even talking about the technology. Yeah, we have tested a lot of technology. And in theory, they're always great. Great promise. These things, this is going to be a game changer. This is going to turn it all around. And then when we get it in the field, we find out, not so. It's not living up to what the theory is. And that's why, and I've been grateful to have the support of the board, that if I wouldn't put this on my mother and have her wear it, I'm not putting it on anybody, period. If I don't have 100% or at least 99.9% faith in it, then we're just not going to do it. And we've learned a lot of other lessons, and y'all have supported me on this, and that I will never, ever sign a contract again. If I can't look somebody in the eye and shake their hand and take them at their word in doing business, then we don't need to do business. I think, it's referred to as the old Southern style of doing business. Well, I've learned that I'm a believer in that, because contracts are nothing more than pieces of paper that people can use to beat you over the head or weasel out of things. So I have developed that attitude, and you guys have supported me, and I am very grateful of that. Now, one other question now. What's in the future for Rick Derus?
That's a good question, Gene.
Other than being at the conference, right?
Well, I am looking forward to the conference this year. We missed it last year because I could not simply travel to the United States because of the COVID restrictions. So I've already booked my plane flight, and I'm eternally grateful for the location that PLI has picked for that in Orlando. As I take my family members down at the same time and let them experience Walt Disney World, who's a great partner of ours, and I get to go to a conference and get reconnected with people throughout the organization and throughout all our agencies that support it. So for now, I'm looking forward to the conference. I still have I'm not one to sit around the house, so I'm not gonna retire from my job here at Windsor Police Association. I'm simply too much fun, it's gonna really be status quo. I have 5 grandchildren now, Gene, so they take up a lot of my time, and
they're all the fun in the world.
I appreciate the time that I'm going to be able to spend with them. But once a police officer, always a police officer. It's hard to get that policing out of your blood, especially when you talk to other police officers who have retired. And I've got the best of both worlds. I'm retired, but I'm still in the policing world, and I'm not going to give that up for a while.
Well, I think you're following a tremendous philosophy. And when I have police officers talk to me about retirement, first thing I tell them, I say, well, retirement is something you might have been thinking of a long time ago, but I remember when I was a young cop, retirement, shoot, that's so far off, I'm not concerned with it right now. And then all of a sudden it's knocking on the door. But I think the secret to retirement from the police world or law enforcement world is go into something that you enjoy and stay busy. Have a purpose. Whatever that purpose may be. Is there some other career that you're looking at or have looked at? Now's the time to really explore it in depth. And don't wait until you've walked out the door of the police agency. Start doing it a little before then. Start preparing. Because I think that's something that gives you the success. And I think, would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, Gina. That's great advice, actually. And I think what's helped is my commitment to other, to these types of organizations. And Project Lifesaver is just one. Anybody can, there's 1,000 community initiatives that you can get involved in after retirement that give you some sense of purpose. I think you need to do something. Most police officers I know, if they just can't sit around and watch TV when they're in retirement. And that's the difficult part, is to know that there is life after retirement for any law enforcement police officer, and to take advantage of the opportunities that are present. We were still pretty young. My goal is to at least work as long as you are after retirement.
Well, you're gonna have to run to keep up. That's all I can say.
A few more years to go.
This has been great. Thank you for spending your time with us and giving us insight into you, the board, and even further insight into Project Lifesaver International from a board member and a board chair point of view. You've been listening to Rick Derus, and I am Gene Saunders. I am the founder and CEO of Project Lifesaver International, and this is Deploying High. If you have not already subscribed, please consider doing so. We are on Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. Thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deploying High podcast with Chief Gene Saunders, brought to you by Project Lifesaver International. Deploying High would like to thank all of our supporters across the country and around the world. If you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe to our channel, make a donation, and don't forget to tell a friend about us. All proceeds from the Deploying High podcast go to support Project Lifesaver International, online at projectlifesaver.org, the original 501c3 nonprofit organization.